Signs of warming ties between the world's two economic powerhouses as US Treasury Secretary embarks on the second day of her high-stakes visit to China. It's a visit packed with talks aimed at stabilizing strained relations. Janet Yellen met with Chinese Premier Li Qiang, where she underscored Washington is not seeking a winner-takes-all competition with Beijing, but rather a healthy rivalry. The two held discussions in Beijing's Great Hall of the People, where both highlighted the importance of managing bilateral ties. The US official said while the countries disagreed at times, it shouldn't be allowed to damage their economic relationship, even while they're protecting national security. The Chinese premier also said that he welcomed the opportunity to exchange views. But the Treasury Secretary's visit was not without signs of strain. She criticized Beijing for its harsh measures against American companies and recent export controls on some critical minerals. She also urged the country to adopt more market reforms and dismissed any suggestion of decoupling.
I've made clear that the United States does not seek a wholesale separation of our economies. We seek to diversify and not to decouple. The decoupling of the world's two largest economies would be destabilizing for the global economy, and it would be virtually impossible to undertake.
For more, Lo Minmin joins us live. She's in Shanghai. Minmin, both sides making every public attempt to reconcile their frosty relationship, it seems. I mean, just to play one of the more colourful comments from Mr. Li, have a listen to his remarks to Janet Yellen. This is where he describes the so-called breaking of a storm.
所以昨天一到我们机场，一下飞机，抬头就看到一轮彩虹。我想这虽然是一种自然天象，也应该说平时也能够见到的，但是我想中美关系何不如此？不完全不是风雨，经历过一轮风雨以后，我们风雨以后我们一定能够见到更多的彩虹。
Minmin, what is the Premier's talk of rainbows all about?
Well, first, I want to give you a sense of the mood surrounding Yellen's visit, because from the get-go, Secretary Yellen was already seen as this voice of reason from Washington. She has previously publicly advocated for the end of Trump-era tariffs on Chinese goods, saying that they are hurting U.S. consumers and causing inflation. So even though those tariffs remains in place, the Chinese have a rather good impression of her. So yesterday, when she landed in Beijing, she went to a Yunnan restaurant, and a photo of her eating there is now going viral on social media, with netizens commenting about how she loves Chinese food because she ordered 4 plates of mushrooms and how well she used the chopsticks. I don't know if you can call that chopsticks diplomacy, but today we also saw Premier Li sitting side by side with Secretary Yellen, both of them smiling, Premier Li smiling with teeth, the whole atmosphere looking very friendly and relaxed, quite different from the mood surrounding Blinken's trip last month. So clearly Yellen has got a few political points by saying the right things like decoupling is destabilizing for the global economy and is virtually impossible to undertake. These are talking points that are quite similar to what the Chinese Ministry of Finance had said earlier today as well, that there would be no winners in trade wars and in decoupling. So she said the right things. The Chinese, we don't know yet whether there are very concrete outcomes from this trip, but these are very positive signals.
Well, the tariffs, as you say, they're still in place on China, Minmin. So how at all, if at all, might this trip by Ms. Yellen influence the trajectory of what we're seeing with US-China ties?
Well, we just saw a statement from Chinese state media. The Chinese are calling on the U.S. to take a pragmatic and rational approach to steering relations on the right track. It will still be an uphill battle to convince Beijing that Washington means what it says, because so far all actions from Washington point towards them still moving full steam ahead with decoupling from China, despite that rhetoric, because we see this, Chinese companies being put on black checklists limiting them from access to U.S. technology. The U.S. is gathering its allies to impose export controls on high-tech goods to China. It is also considering to limit outbound investments to China. And then Secretary Yellen today had criticized Chinese punitive actions against U.S. firms. So all of these, they really put China in a bind because these export controls, they are hurting the Chinese economy. China's economic rebound post-COVID reopening has not been as fast as many had expected. And so China is on this campaign to try to attract more foreign investment into the country. But there is this very real sense of worry among businesses here that the geopolitical environment could escalate. And we saw a sign of that a couple of days ago when the former Ministry of Commerce had said that China has more tools in its toolkit to counter against further restrictions. So if both sides don't take a step back, we could see further escalation of this tit-for-tat actions from both sides.
All right, Min Min, thank you for that. Lo Min there in Shanghai.